Many people feel or believe that modern dance was in some ways a rebellion against ballet. It was so much more than that, but that's one way to look at modern and where it started. Modern dance beginning with the idea of free dance or free movement that you saw with Doris Humphrey, having it not be restricted. The dancers stopped wearing corsets and fitted costuming, stopped putting on the point shoes, and really went for more of a natural, organic way of moving. It gave a greater range of freedom in doing so. Modern dance was mostly about expression. The source of the dance relied on the inside of the dancer rather than the outside. So sometimes in ballet, there's a presentational aspect, a showing, a telling of a story by pantomime. Specific ideas or emotions can be expressed with specific gestures, and that's a lot of what the modern pioneers felt and discovered and worked with. Human emotion, human desire, the human condition, these were all really important things to those first modern masters. They wanted to speak about the human spirit. They wanted to speak about our experience on this earth. And during that time, such as with Doris Humphrey, they tried to experiment with what types of movement would most strongly communicate these ideas. Symbols became important. They worked on how to abstract movement so that it represented something real, that movement wasn't generic or movement for movement's sake, but it really helped us connect physicality to something very specific that humans experience. The art of choreography took hold. So the craft of choreography, how to use space and time and energy, how to use very specific real movement gestures and move it about the space in relationship to other people, how to repeat movement, how to make variations on these movements. It was all about expression. A lot of it was narrative. So as you saw with the Morris Pavane, that's a real perfect example of a narrative. There's a beginning, a middle, an end. There are characters. It's similar to a play without words. So then comes along postmodern dance. And this is where we really see a rebellion. So the artists in the postmodern dance era greatly, deeply, very adamantly rebelled against modern dance. It became into popularity in the early 1960s, so that's no surprise. Anytime you're studying any type of art, you always want to think about what's happening socially and politically at the time, because art goes very much hand in hand with those things. So the postmodern artists sought to deflate what they saw as overly pretentious, ultimately self-serving. So for example, I mentioned to you that Martha Graham was really interested in Greek mythology. And so a lot of her work was centered around that. Well, the postmodern artists felt that there was a pretentiousness to that, a hoity-toity thing. And they really wanted to bring dance to a more grounded place. They wanted it to not live so much in this high ideal or high society or ultra intellectual place. The dance form was a reaction to the compositional and presentational constraints of this preceding generation. So the early modern artists like Doris Humphrey, Jose Limon, Martha Graham, they were really committed to the craft. And they believed that certain areas on the stage represented certain things. So if you were in the center of the stage, that represented balance. If you were all the way far in the up corner, that represented and said something else. There could be a beginning, a middle, and an end. There could be a climax. There could be a resolution, similar to the way we look at literature. And other forms of art, even visual art, the way composition is really important. Well, postmodern threw all that out the window, and they experimented with everything, including the opposite of that. They started using everyday movement and saying it was dance. So a simple walk across a room, they called it dance. They also believed that almost anything could be a valid performance in a work of art. They advocated for the unconventional methods of dance composition. Why does something have to have a beginning, middle, and end, for example? Why does there have to be a climax? Anything can be art and anything can be dance. They believed that a dancer didn't have to have trainings. This is very, very different than what had preceded that. That an amateur could perform, that a professional could perform, that someone had trained their whole life could perform, that someone had never taken a dance class before in their life could also be performed. So these were radically different ideas.